Can you sell a house with foundation issues? Should I fix the foundation issues before selling my house? Are foundation issues a deal breaker? Do foundation issues affect appraisal? These are just some of the questions San Antonio homeowners ask themselves when thinking about selling their home. And for good reason. San Antonio homes are built on some of the country's richest clay soils. Combine that with San Antonio's long dry spells, and you have the perfect recipe for foundation movement and failure. Today, I'm going to share a few real stories of homeowners right here in San Antonio where foundation was an issue and what we did to attract offers, even with foundation problems, and most importantly, what not to do that may cost you thousands of dollars. All right, welcome. So we're going to look at about 3 different properties, and I'm going to share some stories with those properties. And hopefully what you're going to get out of that is some direction on where you want to go with your foundation repair journey at your property that you're wanting to sell. Okay, or if you're looking just to stay in your property and you're not sure what to do, hopefully this will help solve that problem as well. All right, so we're going to look at a virtual tour of a property that was sold in the last few years. Give me a second here. All right. Okay, so we made this property look as good as we could, despite the fact that it needed foundation issues. And I always recommend that. Make the property look great and for the public, no matter what the situation is, so that they understand what the potential is for the property. But here we have this property here on the northeast side of San Antonio. And as you can tell, we're on a hill. It's a pretty dramatic hill. This thing is pretty steep and it goes down this way. A little surprised there that we have foundation problems here. The foundation issues were not very apparent looking at the property. There wasn't a whole lot of cracks in the property because really the whole thing was moving together. So we're getting this like slope in the property. So when you got into the house, you could tell that it had a lot of issues as far as foundation goes. And I don't really get that feeling all the time. When it's really bad, it's bad if I can tell, because a lot of people can tell before I can tell that it has foundation issues. I don't know what the deal is with that. But here we go, looking through the property here. Still really nice property despite the foundation issues. Not a lot of cracking in the ceiling. We have some towards the one of the bedrooms here. Kitchen looks just great. Okay, you have one little sheetrock pop right there, but that was it. So what we ended up doing with this property here is we called out an engineer and paid for the report, and the engineer made their recommendation on it needing foundation repair. And then we ended up getting 3 different estimates. Now that was the play that I recommended to the seller, and they went right along with it. And it really made things easier because they were able to take that report, the engineer's report, and the 3 estimates, and we put that in the listing description as well. So that the thinking was that any buyers that came along and wanted to lowball us really wouldn't be able to lowball us because we already knew that the foundation needed to be repaired. Had we not shown the estimates, they couldn't really argue that the price needed to come down because of that, because we already disclosed that. We already showed that we knew that it needed foundation repairs. So you're really taking the wind out of the sails of anybody that wants to lowball you on your house when it needs foundation work, when you already have the estimates right there. Now, with that being said, you still have to think critically about the price that you're going to put out there for the property. You can't just decide to put it at after repair value when it needs significant foundation repair. The process of doing that really helps you as a seller understand what's in store for the buyer when they purchase the property, how much it's potentially going to cost them to fix it up, and it puts you at ease knowing that you got the best possible return price when selling your house versus just putting the house on the market and trying to guess at what the offers are going to be. Hey folks, really quickly, check the description of this video or the pinned comment for my list of recommended engineers to help you through this process of evaluating your foundation. It's completely free. Go ahead and hit the link in the description or the pinned comment of this video. Now back to the video. Here's another shot here of the front of the house. You can see this right here shows how far down this soil line has come. This right here also indicates a lot of the movement that you would see in the house. And then of course right here by the garage, you can see that it's just like falling down here. All right, on to the next property here. All right, this was a really cool property. This is a home here in Windcrest, over here in northeast San Antonio area, Windcrest, Texas. This house is one of those mid-century modern houses. Really cool house. All that's virtually staged right there. It was empty, but we went ahead and put some furniture in there. Now, the approach we took with this house, very similar to the last house. This one needed an engineer as well. We went and got an engineer. We elected to have all the cracks. Okay, there were some cracks in the house. There were some settling cracks. The seller went ahead and got a professional painter to go out there and fix it. He disclosed everything. Okay, that's very important. He disclosed everything that he did with the property. Number one, got an engineer to come out there and look at the property. And I'm going to freeze this here because I want to show you what the process was. Okay, so here's the front of the house. But finishing up with the disclosure part, whatever you do with the property, if you're going to make it look nice, and the reason we decided to fix the settling cracks is because it was so marginal. It was the need for foundation work ended up being borderline that we didn't want to take any chances that it would scare people off. And so again, he went ahead and fixed the settling cracks that were there and disclosed it on the seller's disclosure note. That's a big point for you if you're going to sell a house with foundation issues. Fix the settling cracks. You're not trying to hide anything. Okay, fix it and disclose it. Okay, because that's going to scare off buyers if you leave the settling cracks there. If it's a marginal, the house is marginal as far as how severe the foundation work is, then you might want to fix it. Now, if it's a situation where it's definitely needs to be fixed, then maybe you don't fix the settling cracks, but you go ahead with all of the other process of getting the engineer out there, getting the quotes and estimates. So we did all that. Okay, we got the estimates. It didn't cost that much to paint and fix any of the settling cracks. That was the other point we wanted to make. Okay, you don't want to put thousands of dollars painting the whole house if they're going to absolutely have to fix it anyway. All right, now this home here has ended up with two different slopes. This home has a pool in the back, and this house actually slopes to the front, to the street. Okay, so everything rolls to the street, and then also on this left side, the house slopes to the left. Again, we disclose everything, engineer's report, the whole nine. This is a living room. There were some settling cracks up here in the ceiling. They're not here now because again, we fixed all that, or the seller fixed everything. Okay. I'm sorry, that was the family room. This is the formal room. There were some settling cracks in here in the ceiling. Can't see them because they got fixed. Master bedroom. And then this area right here, this is the area that I noticed and when I walked the property and prompted me to suggest having an engineer come out is from this angle here, I'm sitting at the kitchen door that goes outside. And this right here is downhill. Okay, we're downhill right here. This is uphill here. And it was pretty dramatic. And this area right here, actually, the engineer looked at the property. And what they determined is that although the house sloped to the street, it was still within tolerance on that slope. But where they did recommend possibly having some foundation pins done is over here on this side. Okay, so they didn't have a problem with the sloping to the street. They said it was still within tolerance and they wouldn't recommend any, but they did recommend having some pinning done on this side. Now, again, we disclose all of that. The new buyers came along. I believe they were a younger couple. They were very happy with the house. They knew that it needed some pinning done over here on this side. We had all the estimates. We had 3 estimates done and for the pinning of the property on this side. and they went ahead with the purchase. They went ahead with the purchase knowing that they were going to need foundation work. They were not investors. I forgot to mention that the last house, the buyers ended up being investors because we went ahead and sold it as is. It was very obvious. It was way more obvious on that last property that it needed foundation repairs versus this property. This one wasn't as noticeable, a little noticeable to me in the kitchen area, but not as noticeable. And they really wanted this retro look, this mid-century modern look to the property. They really were gravitated towards that. Now, I want to tell this other story here. As I was evaluating this property before putting it on the market, I looked at several properties and I even showed a friend of mine this property. We ended up at another property right there in Windcrest, a nice property, okay, very nice property. And we both were just floored to find a major mistake that a homeowner made that had foundation work, okay? It was a big property just like this one. It was all updated, and that's why my buddy wanted to go look at it because he wanted a house. He was in the market. I ended up selling him a different house, but we looked at this house and then we looked at this other house that was completely updated. And this is a major mistake that you folks do not want to make. Please don't make this mistake. The homeowners had foundation work and they did foundation work on the perimeter of the house, all the way around the house. Okay. And then they went in and they redid everything. They put new flooring, they put new showers, they put all kinds of new stuff. Over the years, what happened is the middle of the house did this. It started sinking. And it was very dramatic. I don't have pictures of it. It wasn't my listing, but the middle of the house did this number. Okay. It sunk and it was very noticeable. We were walking around. We're like, are we falling into a hole here? Everything in the middle was sunk in and the outside of the house was up. So if you're going to do foundation work and you're going to do a lot of foundation work, it's very tempting to go cheap and only do the perimeter of the house. But now you're on an elevated slab. This was a term that one of the engineers threw at me and said, hey, if you're going to do foundation work and you're for sure going to do it, it's better to underpin the entire house. Because these slabs are not designed to be elevated and hovering over anything. They're meant to be flat on the ground. That's why a lot of engineers do not, if they can help it, recommend doing the foundation work. They only recommend doing it if it's outside of tolerance level. Very important point there. I don't want to see anybody waste their money doing foundation work and then wasting even more money updating the house, because guess what's going to happen? Eventually, someone's going to have to go in there, cut holes in that entire slab inside and redo all the flooring and possibly have to redo all the sheetrock, all that good stuff. Not something you want to deal with. Please skip that mistake. Now, if I hadn't mentioned it, there is a list. I have a list of engineers that I do highly recommend. You can get that in the link of the description of this video, and or you can find the pinned comment with the link on this video and download that list completely free. Okay, it's my gift to you. Call one of those engineers if you're thinking about doing foundation work, and they will either confirm or deny the need for foundation work and help you sell your property for a higher value than you otherwise would. Okay, and now for last example. So let's just look at this property real quick. I thought it was such a cool property. Check out the pool back here. Really cool property. This is why they really wanted it. So if you have a property that needs foundation work, this one maybe could have considered doing it, but my seller was already living out of town. He was living out of state and he just couldn't oversee the process of it. So he might have considered doing the foundation work, but he said, you know what, I don't have time to mess with it, Krishna. I'm just going to do the recommended bids and see what we can do. So that's what we ended up doing. Hey there, real quick, I wanted to answer a question that I feel like I didn't get to in the video. And that question is, do foundation issues affect appraisal? The value, not so much. Indirectly, it can affect value because it's going to impact the decisions the buyers make on your property. But if you have foundation issues, what's going to happen is, and if they're a parent, the appraiser, if they're involved, the loan is involved, the appraiser is going to call for an engineer's report to be produced, and they're going to want that engineer's report to hopefully state that the foundation is sound and supporting the property. Otherwise, they're not going to underwrite the loan for you or for the buyers, and the buyers aren't going to be able to purchase your home. So it will affect the value of the property, because you could end up having to sell it to an investor if you're not going to repair the issues, so on and so forth. So hopefully that answers your question on whether foundation issues affect appraisal. Okay, so this property I did actually years and years before, back in 2012. Now this property, again, is a really big property, over 2,000 square feet, 2,200 square feet, a newer property, wasn't really old, but this property actually didn't need foundation work. I didn't think it needed foundation work. And we ended up getting this buyer come along, and they happened to work for a pretty well-known foundation repair company here in town. And he had a realtor. He was looking at the property seriously and made comments about a crack in the kitchen and crack in the brick outside. And that was the whole reason he didn't want to make an offer, because he thought the house had foundation problems. It scared the hell out of my sellers. And I told him I gave him the comments because it was part of the feedback. And of course, they said, "What do we do?" I said, "Let's get a engineer out here." We got an engineer out there. Okay. And thankfully, that's the route we took, is getting an engineer. Instead of calling a foundation company that does repairs and is paid to do repairs, we paid an engineer that was unaffiliated with a foundation repair company. I'm sure there's some honest ones out there, but we didn't want to take a chance. So we got the engineer out there, and they did their measurements. They looked at the crack, they looked at the brick, and they said, "This is not a problem. This is a really big slab, and these slabs are not necessarily going to be flat or perfect when they pour them. There's no other sign of foundation issues. The crack is just some structural movement, normal settling. The brick cracking they determined was thermal expansion." Okay, if you have a this is all brick home. So if you have an all brick home, the way the engineer explained it to me is that that brick doesn't just stay still. We have hot Texas heat, and it's going to expand and contract. If you didn't, and this one, I don't think it had the number of expansion joints that it normally has these days, but it didn't have maybe enough expansion joints. And so the brick and the mortar cracked in between some of the bricks. And that's what made the issue on the outside. It just really goes to show that foundation issues, number one, don't always have to be addressed. Okay. Number two, they have varying degrees of severity. If you pay the engineers to come out and give you the evaluation, it can pay you dividends. It can save you thousands and thousands of dollars versus going out and actually having a foundation company come out and you spend several $1,000s on a repair that is possibly not even needed. Okay. So my recommendation, get an engineer out there, pay the few $100s. Worst case scenario is at least you have the foundation report. They're going to measure your slab. You're going to know where it is. They will make recommendations for future other things that you can do to mitigate the damage versus actually repairing the foundation. Me personally, if I'm buying another house, I would, and they're both equal, I would pick the one that's maybe a little bit out of level, that hasn't had any foundation repair done, versus one that's had foundation repair. That's just my opinion. You can do whatever you want and whatever's best for you and your family. But hopefully that helped you. Don't forget, you can get that easy guide to engineers in the description of this video and or the pinned comment of this video. And if you have any questions, reach out to me here, 210-260-6617. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day.